This morning, the committee welcomes John Phelan, Secretary of the Navy, Admiral James Kilby, Acting Chief of Naval Operations, and General Eric Smith, Commandant of the Marine Corps. We're grateful for their presence here today. I want to congratulate the Navy for turning a corner. Recruiting numbers are up significantly, and the Navy is on track to meet its fiscal year 2025 recruiting goal. This is especially significant because the goal is higher than it has been in 20 years. Notably, the department has shifted focus from divisive policies such as climate change and DEI. Renewed focus on warfighting and service contributes to these recent recruiting successes. This positive momentum provides an opportunity to raise recruiting standards and attract the highest caliber of warfighters our nation requires. In fact, if these recruitment trends continue, we could end up with too few ships for our sailors. Though we're making some improvements, Navy shipbuilding remains in an abysmal condition overall. And we're going to talk about that today. The previous administration tended to scapegoat industry, but the current administration is problem solving, canceling redundant contracts and reducing bureaucratic layers. President Trump's executive orders on federal acquisition reform, drawing from proposals in the Forged Act, are streamlining procurement to maximize every defense dollar. The Forged Act would empower the Navy to buy smarter and innovate faster, and I expect to see these provisions in this year's National Defense Authorization Act. The request falls far short of what we need to protect our country, though. I must say I am deeply disappointed with the administration's fiscal year 2026 budget request for the Navy. In particular, I'm disturbed about the shipbuilding account, which plummeted to $20.8 billion from last year's $37 billion. $20.8 billion down from last year's $37 billion. This shortfall reflects efforts to game the budget in anticipation of congressional reconciliation funds, which were intended as supplemental, not a substitute. I'm alarmed that this budget request does not include the procurement of a new destroyer. For several years now, it has been the practice to request 2 destroyers per year, with Congress adding a third in the odd-numbered year. The pattern is simple: 2 ships, then 3 ships, alternating each year. This provides orders to the shipyards to get us closer to the statutorily required 355 ships, required by statute. This year, funds were meant to cover the odd year from reconciliation, additional third ships for 2027 and 2029. They were not meant to replace the regular annual 2-ship request. This budget ignores that ignores this congressional intent. Failing to include 2 destroyers in this year's budget request destabilizes industry, shows bad faith, and slows our shipbuilding efforts. Equally troubling is the omission of any Virginia-class submarine procurements. Here as well, the administration is relying on the 1 boat proposed in reconciliation. This would upend the multi-year negotiations that presume 9 boats over 5 years instead of 8. It jeopardizes industrial base recovery. Moreover, the Columbia-class program, critical for strategic deterrence, is underfunded by $4 billion. The number relies on unapproved authorities for incremental funding. The Shipbuilder Accountability and Workforce Support Initiative, SASC, would enable 2 Virginia-class and 1 Columbia-class submarine annually. If we do SAWS, we could do 2 Virginias and 1 Columbia-class each year. Yet OMB opposes this and has created the crisis we now face. There's still time to implement SAWS, and I urge action to avoid further damage. The absence of Constellation-class frigates in the budget also raises serious questions. We'll discuss that during Q&A. Last year, we halted new procurements because of design instability. This year, the omission of 2 frigates signals severe problems with the program. I hope our witnesses clarify the frigate's future and how the Navy will sustain critical shipyard capacity in the event the program falters. Shipbuilding is not our only problem. The future of naval aviation faces significant challenges. The Navy continues to rely on the 30-year-old Super Hornet design as the mainstay of its carrier-based fleet, while capability gaps have been exacerbated with reduced F-35 orders. Compounding this, the F/A-XX sixth-generation fighter, intended to replace the aging Super Hornet, faces funding and schedule setbacks. The recent loss of 3 F/A-18s during a single deployment of the USS Truman underscores the operational strain on an aging fleet. There is $750 million proposed in the budget reconciliation to jumpstart this program. An announcement from the Navy will need to be made soon, Mr. Secretary, or we will risk further challenges to the industrial base. I recognize that the overall budgetary decisions were not made by the Navy, and I'm committed to a congressional solution to these shortfalls. The committee expects a clear plan to restore shipbuilding momentum, leverage Ford Act authorities, and ensure a fleet capable of deterring aggression in an increasingly contested world. Most members know that Senator Reed is attending a very important graduation ceremony this morning, and we congratulate him and his family. In his place, I'm delighted to recognize Senator Kane, who will make opening remarks on behalf of the Democrats.
Thank you.